Hello and welcome to the Sistering Podcast. I'm Audra and this is my mom, Rhonda.
Hello.
So, what are we talking about today?
Mothers. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day.
We decided that we would do a focus on mothering. Couple of things we want to look at. This session is going to be called Against All Odds. One of the things that I think about consistently from a biblical perspective, and us being as women, and a lot of us being mothers, is just the war on motherhood, the war also on just womanhood.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I think back and I look back, even from the beginning in Genesis, I remember when the sin first happened in the garden, and God was talking to Adam, and Adam said, "The woman you gave me."
Yeah.
He immediately had contempt for the woman that God had given him, and it began even as far back as then.
Yeah.
And I think that that's continued.
Yeah.
You know, if we look at the world today, the war on womanhood has continually evolved and is always changing. And yes,
Sure.
there's a war across the whole human race, but specifically womanhood. It started with the feminist movement, right? The feminists saying, "Hey, I can do the same thing that a man can do, and I can do it just as good." The reality is, we weren't created that way. You know, when I read my Bible, the Bible tells me that God created me a weaker vessel. It didn't mean that I'm weaker in value. It just means that when compared to a man, there are different things that he's been called to do and different things that I've been called to do. And so, as a pro-life woman and as a woman who work in the pro-life movement and run a pro-life ministry, I see the attack specifically on the mothering woman. I've seen women in pain, in trauma, in joy. There's so many things. And so the way God created a woman was for her to be the nurturer and the protector of life.
Yeah.
To be the one who teaches and trains, and to be the safe place for a child. And so the world has now changed that, because the world's saying that in order for a woman to be a mother, she has to be accomplished in all of these worldly attributes.
Yeah, well, I think it's this perspective of a lot of young women are not becoming mothers until they are established in their careers, because this perspective of the feminist movement where we are to be as successful as men, we are capable. Yes, we are capable. It's not as if we are not capable. That's not the argument there. The argument isn't that women cannot. It is that women maybe should not.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality as a young woman, right, a mom, I'm capable of doing this. I'm capable of running that. I'm capable of being the boss here and being the boss there. But at this season of motherhood, that takes me away from my children.
Yes.
And it leaves my family unprotected. Mm-hmm. You know, the Bible said that a weak woman allows things into our home. Yes. It didn't say a weak man.
That's right.
And so, and things in terms of spiritual things. So as a mom, there's this call on my life to say, hey, yeah, I can do all of that, but also I'm not going to do all of that. There's a power in restraint. There's a power in being present, because when we're present, we're able to protect our kids better, right? Like, if I'm not there and my kids are being raised by an iPad, the world has access to my child. Whereas if I say, no, I can't be there, I'm sorry, and I go home and I cook dinner and I have those moments with my children, then I'm able to protect my children better. I mean, and that's just what we're called to do. And yes, the argument could be, oh, a man can do that, but it is a woman's role biblically to do that.
Yeah. And I think our makeup also enhances that, because we are natural nurturers.
Yeah.
Right? The reason why a wife per se is told to respect her husband is because that's unnatural for her.
Right.
But and the reason why he's told to love his wife is because that's unnatural for him. A woman's bent is always to love and to care and to nurture and to make people comfortable, to make the home comfortable, to make their children comfortable. And so when Audrey talks about the power of restraint, it's again, I think we look at submission, subjection, all these things, we look at them in a negative light.
Yeah.
But God has created those things for us to be able to put ourselves under His rule, His standard.
Yeah.
You know? And so.
Well, then there's a natural protection in it.
Yes.
You know, and this is something that I teach my students all the time. We talk about biblical worldview, and we discuss the role of a man and a role of a woman. And the reality is that when we think of a soldier going to battle, like, he has armor on him. That's the role of the man. He's the protector. He's the umbrella that covers the family. That's what his job is. He's the one taking the bullets.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to step into the role of a man. I don't want to do all that a man can do, because then I have to take the bullets.
Exactly.
There's a level where being a biblical woman, being a biblical mother gives us protection. It puts us under a protection that we would not have if we walk into this full feminist perspective of, you know, walking out this like, hey, I'm a boss girl and I'm going to go do all these things and ignore a family until I'm 40. You know, like, that's not helpful.
Yeah, there's a saying out there that says, the most important thing you may do in this life is not what you've done, but maybe who you've raised.
Yeah.
And I really believe that, because when you consider that, you're looking at the generations being passed on and passed down.
Yeah.
Right? So what is being passed on? When you think about a baby and a mother that's already here, the first thing they do when the baby comes into the world is they put that baby back into that mother's arms.
Yeah. Well, they do skin to skin.
They do skin to skin because it's about attachment.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's an attachment that should happen with every mother and that child. And that attachment, mind you, didn't begin when the child came out. The attachment started even before.
Oh,
because you will see the child, that initial reaction when it hears its mom's voice.
It responds.
It's like, oh, I respond to that because I know this person. I know this nature.
Right.
And so we as women, as mothers, must also make sure that we are healing well.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm not healed well, my attachment with my child is then going to be an issue.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And we don't understand. You pass that on also. That insecure attachment or secure attachment. You know, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I so wanted to be a mother. And so it was the best thing for me. Like, I just loved being a mother. I remember being in one of my Bible studies and the women were talking, and we're all mothers at that time. And I was like, oh my God, I just love it. And some women really didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, they did.
It was very interesting, you know, because I'm like, whoa, I get the opportunity to partner with God to raise this being. That to me was such a sacred and a valuable thing that I couldn't even begin to fathom how much it is. And it requires a lot from us as a mother. It requires us to check ourselves constantly, all the time. And I think that's where the issue comes in, because human nature, we don't want to do that.
No.
We don't want to examine ourselves. We don't want to find ourselves wanting. You know, for me, I don't know why I'm built like this, but I don't mind finding myself wanting, because that's an area now that I could go and do the work on. I like doing the work. I like being better. It's just something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't compare myself to other mothers, because again, I'm a different individual. My child is a different individual from their child. So what my child needs and what their child needs may be something different.
Yeah. I think at some point early in motherhood I did. Just because, like, they were all little. They were all babies. So, like, nobody had a personality yet. So everybody was kind of comparing, like, how do you breastfeed? How do you wean? How do you pump? Oh, you feed a bottle? Oh,
But they
okay.
they did have a personality, because
Yes,
you look at
they
Myra
did.
and look at Macy.
Yeah,
They both were
definitely
different. Oh
from
my
the minute they
gosh.
entered the world, they were different. Myra was like, she heard my voice, she was crying, she's like, oh, and then she heard, I said, baby, mommy's here, it's okay, and she's like, oh, and she just laid there silently on my chest, and she fell asleep the first night, and she slept through the night, and she was just an easy angel baby. And my Macy, she is a trailblazer, is what she is. Cause she showed, and Myra was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take my time to come out." Macy was like, "I know y'all trying to get me out here, but I'm coming out before that. So what's up?" And she just showed up, and then she showed up, and she showed up loudly. She showed up very loudly, and she screamed the entire time. I said, "Baby, mommy's right here." Oh! She screamed. I was like, is she good? Like,
and she's still screaming.
Is she okay? Like, what is going on? Like, what is wrong with her? Is she good? Like, and she just screamed and screamed and screamed, and she's a passionate little child.
Yes, she is.
So yeah, I guess they did. And Myra would eat and just go to sleep. And Macy, she'd eat a little bit and be like, I need more food, and scream the house down again. Different kids, but
even in their sleeping patterns, they were different.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely different. Macy had to be on top of you to go to sleep. Myra, no, she'll go to sleep wherever you drop her down. Yeah, they were definitely different, but yeah, it was like early on like that. I think even sometimes people, like for me, like when you have multiple children, you compare your mothering style from the first one to the second one. And I'm like, I'm not doing a great job with this second one. I am not doing great, because what is wrong with her? Like, is she like? Am I failing her somehow?
You know what we don't think about though. This is what you don't think about. That because you are raising two different individuals, your mothering of them is going to be different.
It has to be, yeah, for sure.
And their response to you, they're going to see two different types of mothers.
They will.
In terms of how you and see, people don't think about that. We just assume that it's cookie cutter. One thing works for everyone else, and that's so not right.
Yeah, and I tried that for a while, and that didn't work, because the mother that Myra needs is a gentle, sweet, kind mother to just, oh baby, are you alright? Macy needs if you don't go sit your hip down and eat that food. She need a different kind of mother. I don't know. Like, it's just different. And Macy's like, okay, mommy, I love you. Myra's like, why do you love me? It's a different kid altogether.
Yeah. And so even in that, right? What I want to say to the mothers, who are young mothers out there, hold on. Just hold on, right?
Yeah.
The seasons happen and they move quickly. But what I want, I love the fact that Ecclesiastes talks about a time for everything.
Yeah.
Right? I'm at a season of life where I'm a mother to adult children. There was a season where I was a mother to little children, and it needed different things.
Yeah.
Even a baby stage, toddler stage,
third grade.
Yeah.
Third
teenage. They
level.
all have different stages, and so you have to give yourself grace.
Yeah.
But what I would say is look to the Word of God and look at other women who've gone before you. Look at what they did good and what they didn't do well. For me, for instance, when I grew up, my mom was not affectionate. And so she was always there. She was present. We knew that mommy would take care of everything. She was good at creating teaching moments for us. She took us places. We traveled. We did a lot. But affection, that was just not her thing. I was a child that needed that.
Yeah.
And so because I knew I was lost without that, when I became a mom, that was something that I did well. I was always affectionate. I loved on my children. They knew how much I loved them. I wanted them to understand how valued they were, because I think I felt like I missed that growing up. I didn't necessarily feel that in that way. I knew mommy was there. I knew she loved me, but there was just some things that were missing. And so if we're taking the generations to another level, then how do we do it better?
Well, yeah, I agree. I was thinking when you said that, like, I think there has been some insecurity. I feel like I was a very quiet child, right? Like I
Mhm.
feel like I was more timid and shy and just kind of there. Um, and I'm like, I'm looking at what you've passed to me, and then in turn what I've given my girls, and like people would say, "Oh wow, Audrey, you're so beautiful." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Yeah. My girls are like, "Yeah, I know," and I'm like, "Okay, say thank you." Though. Like, like they have a level of confidence that just I didn't have,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know that you had at that age,
No,
and so
no,
there's this level where
definitely not.
we've tried to create and foster something in them where they dream big and they are visionaries and they can see things bigger like and better than even maybe I was at that age, like Macy's talking about how she's gonna open a spa and she's planning all the menu and all the things and she already have a vision,
Yeah.
and so but like that just wasn't something that I necessarily had until I was older.
Yes.
And so now there's this level where I'm giving it to my girls and they're able to see and dream bigger and better and operate better, At 5 and 8, like I'm able to say, hey, like, is that what the Lord is asking you to do?
Yes.
Is that really where you want to be? And they're like, well, no, we want to honor God. Okay, so we have to change that attitude. And they actually change.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I don't think at 8 and 5, I wasn't like that. I wasn't where I was living.
Well, I mean, you didn't have to be living there. I think that's the thing too, right? We have to respect the times and then places that we are in because that your reality and my reality during that season was different. You know, also I think we lived in a culture that was, an obedience type culture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, you followed what mom told you to do and you just followed it well. I think even the way we disciplined then is different than the way we discipline today.
Yeah.
And so all of that I think enhances it. But again, what you know now in terms of biblical motherhood and biblical womanhood is different than what I knew.
Yeah.
I was working from a deficit.
Mm.
And you were working from a full cup. You had so
Yeah.
much more because we had exposed you to so much more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
and I believe it's important to expose children to more.
yes.
I think it's super important. I think, like even just the conversations that I have with my sixth graders, like what does it look like to be a biblical young lady? Like what is it that you should be looking for? What is it that you should be pursuing? How are your decisions today affecting your decisions tomorrow? How do your friendships affect those steps and movements, and I'm watching them like actually digest the information and have really great conversation about it. But like we weren't having those conversations in sixth grade. We weren't talking about biblical womanhood until we were like in college, in high school, 12th grade. But you become a woman early. Like,
yes.
It's not like your brain isn't able to be mature enough to
Yes.
process that. They're seeing things, they know things. So might as well have the conversation,
And I think the world is hitting harder.
It is. The attacks are really hard.
I think in our days,
Yeah.
the world was a little bit more subtle in their attack.
Yeah.
There's no subtlety anymore. The world is like, this is who we
up
are.
Say what they
Like,
gotta say.
I'm going to be a, what do they call it? What they call the woman who wants to, the transgender one, what they say, what is it? Who she believes she is, what it is? What's the terminology? Anyway,
I'm not sure what you're saying.
They say a biological woman or a
trans woman.
No, but what do they say? They believe that that's what they are, and so
the mentality. That's their identity.
Yeah, and so they identify.
Yeah.
They self-identify. Do you realize nobody's trying to self-identify as a man?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to self-identify as a woman. Like, what is it? And I get it, right? When God made woman, he said, and it was good. But the attack is coming from there. And the attack is coming because that's the weaker vessel, right? There's so many women who are accepting of this premise that a lot of people are making, and they don't understand, but that's a detriment to who we are naturally as women, right? It destroys who we are. You know, how is it fair for a grown man to perform against a woman? We are a weaker vessel. And so we keep polluting and perverting the things that God has put into place. But like I said, the world is not playing. They're coming hard. They're
Yeah,
coming
they're
hard. They're coming
attacking all
hard.
of
That's
it.
why, you
Yeah.
know, we talk about against all odds. You have women are being attacked in their sexuality. They're being attacked in their modesty. In should I be a mother or should I be a career woman? All
Do
of
I
these
even want to
things.
get married?
Do I want to have children? You
Yeah.
know, should I kill my child in the womb so that I can have something better in life? Not knowing that we have the capacity to overcome the hardest hurdles ever.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that we fight with on a daily basis. You know, and I think it does behoove, you know, for us as older women to teach the younger women, you know, modesty. Oh my gosh, it's such a thing.
I
But
think it's so hard too because, like, even as a teacher, I have these conversations, and it's, well, there's always an attitude that I get back. Like, okay, just the other day, we were at like a thing with some students, and several of the girls showed up in crop tops,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm loud about it. Like, I don't care how nobody feel about it. If it goes against the word of God, I'm gonna speak up on it. And if it goes against the rules, I'm speaking up. I don't care. So I was like, baby, what you wearing?
Mm-hmm.
And why?
Mm-hmm.
For what reason?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, it's just a shirt. No, I do not need to see your belly button and your midriff. That is not appropriate. Put on a jacket, or you need to go and change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're just not going to do this. And she's like, well, why is it a problem? I'm like, because it's a problem.
Right.
Like, I don't have to explain that to you because you know the rules.
Right.
And it's this like, well, why can't I do whatever I want to do? Well, because that's not what God has asked us. If I want to go out and drink a whole bottle of wine, I can't do that because that's not what God has said I could do. Mm-hmm. If I want to go curse somebody out because they irritated me, or I want to punch somebody in the face, I can't just go do whatever I want to do. There are rules in place for a reason to keep us safe. So yes, I'm telling you, cover your body. 2 of them were like, okay, yes, sorry. And they did it because they knew. And then another one had an attitude. Like, I mean, went back and forth with me about the boys need to cover their eyes and whatever. And I was like, no. You don't get to determine what other people do. You are the one that is responsible for yourself.
Yes.
And so you need to cover your body.
Yes.
And regardless if you think it is fair or not, this is a school function.
Right.
So
right.
cover it up, or
right.
I will be not nice with you. Like, I'm going to have to write you up. Like, we're not going to have this argument. But there's this, it's really difficult because the world has grabbed hold of their perspective.
Yes.
And it is, oh, I'm a woman, I can do whatever I want to do. Well, if I am a Christ follower, that does not apply to me.
Exactly.
That's not a relevant argument for me, because the Lord is supposed to be taking those things away.
Yes.
He should be removing those flawed desires and sin nature desires. Mm-hmm. That's what he should be doing if I'm letting him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are things that I'm allowed to do. That doesn't mean it's beneficial to do it.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that it is helpful or good to do it.
Exactly.
And so yeah, I do have free will, but why would I use my free will to harm another person or to harm myself when God is not calling me to that? Yeah. God's calling me to more than that.
Yeah. And it is because, like you said, the world pushes it. They push it in every arena.
Yeah.
Every book, every magazine, every TV,
the clothing section,
the commercials. Yeah, even in the stores. And so you have to teach your daughters what it means to be modesty. And why is modesty important? Well, modesty is important because women are not objects.
No.
We're not objects. And the immodesty paints us and portrays us as an object to be used.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So, you know, for instance, you know, our girls, they'll wear tights and stuff, but they'll wear it like around the house or whatever.
Yeah.
But not when they're out in public. Like, that's not a thing. And so why? Because they're perverts out there. Mm-hmm. They're crazy people in the world. You know, there was a time where it was okay to, I remember one of my daughters, my adopted daughters, when she lived with us, we would send her back on the plane to her parents from Virginia to the Bahamas. And she would always have a stewardess there. Today, little girls are being molested on planes because of that. And so that's not even a thing anymore. You know, little girls and boys are being molested in churches, in schools. You know, the suicide rate is up for children. Imagine that, children. So it is our job. If I'm not there, if I am not there, if I'm not present in the home, and when I say present, I don't mean physical present, right. Because my dad was home when he was home, but he wasn't present.
Right.
He wasn't engaged with me or my siblings. You know, we were doing our thing and he was doing his thing. He was watching the TV, watching sports. I could tell you all about sports because that's what he did. Right. You know, and it was hard for you to talk to him because he was engaged in something else.
Right.
And I think that's the problem when we don't understand that we've been entrusted. And guess what? We're not guaranteed tomorrow.
No.
Right? We're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so you have to teach your children all the time, as often as you can. I remember you had an epiphany one time, and because you were struggling with how you raise your daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you came back to me and you said, oh my gosh, because we had this argument where you can't be available to them whenever they want. They have to know you have feelings and stuff too. You know, that's what she would tell me, because whenever they came, I would drop everything and I would do it.
Well, yeah,
you can't do that.
Yeah, if you're sick, like, you're sick. Like,
right.
Tell them, hey, leave me alone, I'm sick. Like,
yeah, and they do respect that. But you had the epiphany where it was like, oh, mommy, I get it. I was so concerned what I needed to do that I didn't really consider what they would have needed. And you changed. Yeah. And it changed your dynamic with your girls.
Well, I think it's this perspective of like, okay, but I have to send this email, so you're going to have to wait. Or I got to do this, so you're going to have to wait. Or like, mommy's relaxing. Like, mommy done worked 8 hours. I need a bath. I need a relaxing moment watching my shows. And you got to just wait. Well, if they're going to bed before me, then realistically I only have limited time with them to really connect with them, because in the frame of 12 hours and the day waking 12 hours, they're at school 8 of those hours, and then I have 4, and so am I using that to my advantage? Am I connecting? Am I having conversations? Am I reading? Am I doing those things with them? Well, no, I wasn't, because in my mind, I also need to take care of me. And so there has been this level of like, okay, what do you need? I pause the show and I'm engaged and I'm listening. Sometimes they ignore me. Sometimes they're like, Mommy, I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, nothing. We're going to go and do our thing. Goodbye. And I'm like, how dare you? That's so rude. Sorry? No, I'm going to hang out too. No, Mommy, we're good. We're actually okay. But like, I prefer that they know that they can come to me. And there are still, rules and limitations with that. Like, don't bring your Barbies in my bed. Like, don't do that, because I'm not gonna have stepping on Barbie shoes.
Don't eat in my bed.
Don't bring those things to my room. Now, I can come to you, but don't do that. But there is a change in it, like, because they didn't ask to be here.
Correct.
I did what I did, and they're now here. So Correct. It's on me to now foster in them healthy attachment, healthy relationships, healthy communication. And if they're only ever with themselves, by themselves, how can I ever talk and share real life things with them? Like Myra's now in 3rd grade, and there's now friendship stuff. And, it's like, oh, this person or that person or this and that. And she doesn't actually have the answers because she's 3rd grade. She's a baby. Yeah. And so it's my responsibility to have those conversations and say, hey, this is this, or this is that, or well, what about this? And bring up ideas and actually have the discussion. But if I'm doing my own thing, how can I have the conversation? What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking about, like you said, they ate, So we had a conversation with Myra one time. I think it was Myra and Macy about a dress they were trying to wear to church or something.
Mm-hmm.
And hard Myra they would always fight. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, because you don't listen, bro. Sometimes I say something like, oh, Mommy.
So Myra at one point was like, well, why do you have it in my closet if you don't want me to wear it?
I said, good point. Let me take it out of here.
Right.
Let me take it.
And I'm
Take
like,
it out of here.
and I'm like, that makes sense.
So I grabbed it out. I said, let's throw it away. She's like, no, mommy, no. I said, then put on a t-shirt underneath it. Then put the t-shirt on. Okay, mommy. I'm like, what? Like, it's fun. You know,
it's a constant learning. But you know, the thing what she's been sharing is that motherhood requires sacrifice.
Yeah.
A lot of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice yourself in order for their good to come about, right?
Yeah.
Because your job is to train. Your job is to give them the things that they need to be able to navigate the world in which they live in, because they don't understand that the perception, people watch them as they come out. People watch them when they're at school and they know that's her child, that's their child, that's their, you see. And so what you're giving to them, you know, the girl who comes to school with her hair not fixed, they're like, oh, well, what's wrong with her mom? Why her mom didn't fix her hair?
Yeah.
Or, you know, hygiene.
Yeah, even the boy, I think there was one time I had to get on him, but one of the kids in class, they came for picture day. It was a boy, and his hair was, and everyone is like, "What's wrong with you? Why you look like that?" And he was like, "Oh, my mom didn't fix my hair." And they were like, first they were like, "Bro, you're old enough to do your own hair." But then secondly, they were like, "Maybe your mom just doesn't care." And I was like, "Whoa, don't say that." But it's the subconscious thought, you know, like it is the subconscious thought. Where was your mother? Why did your mother not fix your hair? They're not thinking about the father. That's right. Not the thought that comes up.
That's exactly right.
It's like, oh, okay.
That's right.
Look at you.
You know, when we see our girls different places and stuff, what is she wearing? Why is she wearing that? Like, you know, that's a problem. You know, we've been endowed with intuition, discernment, all of these things, and so we have to continually be navigating the different things. And you are the protector. You are the first protector for your child. You are the very first. You're the first protector for a child, and that begins in the womb. You know.
Yeah, as soon as you know there's a baby there, that should kick in. And I think this is the heart that this is so sad, right? Because so many women forfeit the opportunity to have the joys of motherhood. Like, it is genuinely the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, because I have to sacrifice often, all day, every day. You know, like, I want to go fall asleep. Like, I want to go curl up in a bed and go to bed, but oh no, we gotta watch Survivor because we haven't watched Survivor in a couple weeks, and so we gotta go do that because that's gonna fill her tank, and I gotta force myself to stay awake, you know. But
let her dream.
Yeah, or she want to talk for 25 minutes at bedtime about whatever she was talking about, or Macy want to talk, hush up, and then Macy want to talk about her spa, and she's talking nonstop for 15 minutes, and then it's going to have a and literally I'm like, can you just shut up, bro? But I can't say that because that's not a loving mother, you know, and it requires a lot, but on the flip side, like, you know, on those moments where people are like, your kid is amazing. Like, you know, I had a teacher the other day say, like, of the entire group, like, Myra's the one that is listening. Like, even a teenager came to me and was like, of the whole group I'm interacting with, Myra listens. The rest of these kids, they ain't respectful. They're not kind. They're not considerate. They're not. Yours is, though. Yours are. And so then, like, there's that moment of like, oh, I'm doing something right. Oh my gosh, this is good, you know? Or just like the way that her teachers are like, she's a sweet kid, like she's the best. Like, I'm doing something right, you know? The moments where they're like, I'm doing something, and they're like, oh, like I always have my nails done, and they're in the dining room making paper nails. And they're like, look, mommy, we're like you now. We have nails. But they want to be like me. So there's obviously something that I'm doing right if they want to be like me.
You know, I saw this video yesterday. Someone shared it, and it was a stepmom in the car, and the mom, they were in the garage or whatever, and the son was in the back seat, and the mom was saying, he's not going out with you guys, and blah, blah, blah. And um, she says, "Come out the car, son." And he's like, "No, I'm not coming out the car." And his mom was like, "You coming out the car now?" And the stepmom was like, "We're taking him where we going." And the boy said to the stepmom, "Yeah." And she says, "You're not even a real mom." This is a teenage boy. A teenage boy. He's telling the stepmom what his mother said. That showed me that the stepmom was being more of a mom to him than his own mom. And it was like, oh my gosh, like really?
Yeah.
And so we have to know our children. We have to invest in them. And if we can't get angry when somebody else becomes more important to them because you didn't do the work.
Right.
It's on you to do the work. I have adopted daughters. I have a ton of adopted daughters. And I love them and they can turn to me for everything. And I always do turn them back to their mothers and stuff. And I help them to navigate that mother relationship because I'm not going to lie. Mothers and daughters, it's hard sometimes because she's growing up to be a woman. And so as a woman, her natural bent is to do it her way, and not to do it your way,
No, because you're old and you don't know all that I know.
I love it. I love it. Well, can I tell you something as we end this episode? A couple weeks ago, my daughter told me, "I want to be just like you."
Oh, God. I don't recall at all.
And that's good because it's like, in all the people that you see, in all the people that you do life with, you look at me and say, okay, hey, I want to be like you. But the opposite of that is that I look at her as a woman and I'm like, God, thank you for my daughter. Yeah. Thank you for my adult daughter because she's doing well. We are imperfectly perfect, but we are just the way God wants us to be.
Yeah.
So as you navigate this Mother's Day, there are going to be highs, there are going to be lows, there's going to be pain, there's going to be anguish. But against all odds, whether you've been given a biological child or just an adoptive child, somebody you've taken in, you as a woman can mentor and mother someone else. Yeah. That's a gift that God has given each of us to be able to pour out to someone else. And so I have Audra as my biological daughter, but I have tons and tons of other women who are also, I consider my daughters too.
Yeah, but I'm number one and I'm the best. I'm the highest, like y'all come after her, just so we clear. Y'all cool or whatever, but I'm the daughter. You know what I'm saying? So don't even try it on that.
Don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. They'd be like, "Oh, Miss Jarva." I'm like, yeah, she's still coming to me though. I'm her daughter. I'm the one, okay? The one and only.
Oh, we love you. We love you. We love you. Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
And I hope you're
celebrated
or you have somebody that you can celebrate with today.
Yes.
Have a great one. Bye.
Yes, bye.